And when the army got destroyed, some of it was still there, and all of the people that were part of that army were sold into slavery. And so we learn the story of Sumayya, anha, the first martyr of Islam. The first martyr of Islam. She was an Abyssinian. Baraka was an Abyssinian. Bilal was an Abyssinian. What's the story behind them? They were actually part of this conquering army that were sold into slavery, or the children of this conquering army. So this is the background of Bilal radiallahu anhu. He comes from a Christian background, and the Christians at the time were, of course, as we know, Muslims. So this is something we should be aware of, and it adds another dimension, another layer to this incredible story of Bilal radiallahu anhu. We know what happened, what he went through. When he was sold into slavery, he was noted for his intelligence and his strength. And so he was a prized slave amongst all the slaves. And he was in the house of who? He was in the house of Umayyah bin Khalaf, one of the greatest enemies of this religion, one of the greatest enemies of the Prophet, one of the greatest enemies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And think about it, subhanAllah, Allah put Bilal radiallahu anhu in the house of Umayyah bin Khalaf. He put Musa alayhi salam in the house of the Pharaoh. He put Imam Malcolm in America. Why did he do these things? Because these circumstances make great people. Great men and women, they're forged by difficult circumstances, so we shouldn't shy away. A lot of us will face difficulties in our lives. These are the opportunities, they're the watershed moments that allow us to achieve greatness. What made Bilal radiallahu anhu so great? We know this story. He was in the house of Umayyah. When he heard about the Prophet, this is the first year that the Prophet ﷺ received revelation. He heard about the Prophet, all he heard was Allah is one, that's all he heard, and Muhammad ﷺ is his messenger. And just from that, he was like, he believed, immediately he believed. So he was one of the first people to accept Islam, in a state of slavery, in a condition of slavery, in the house of one of the greatest enemies of the Prophet ﷺ. And they tortured him for months. Umayyah bin Khalaf would not let him go. He tortured him incessantly. For months at a time, until at some point he wanted to break Bilal radiallahu anhu, he wanted to make an example out of him. And we know the story that he was in they put him in the desert, in the blazing sun, and they put a gigantic rock on top of him. And that was a means of his torture, to the point where he would pass out for hours at a time, and they would think that he might have died, but he'd wake up. We know he was a very strong man. He fought in the battles with the Prophet ﷺ. So he'd wake up, and this would keep happening. Until at some point, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu pleaded with Umayyah bin Khalaf to sell him Bilal radiallahu anhu so he could set him free. And even though he wanted to make an example, at some point he agreed. And so Abu Bakr asked him, Umayyah bin Khalaf, how much do you want for him? And Umayyah bin Khalaf said, give me 10 dinars. And so Abu Bakr paid that price and bought Bilal radiallahu anhu and set him free. Umayyah bin Khalaf said, if you gave me 1 dinar, this slave is worthless to me, he means nothing to me, I would have given him to you. And Abu Bakr said, if you asked for 100 dinars, I would have given 100 dinars to you. Because what he is showing is that this slave means something. He means he is priceless to me. And he was someone priceless. He was priceless to the Prophet ﷺ. He was beloved by Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. He was beloved by Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu. Hazrat Umar used to call Bilal radiallahu anhu Sayyidina, our master, that was freed by our master, meaning Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. So this is the story of Bilal radiallahu anhu. This is how he becomes Muslim, accepts Islam, and we know what happens after that. He is someone who is so close to the Prophet ﷺ. When the adhan comes, the command for the adhan comes, he's the first person the Prophet ﷺ makes the muaddin, and from that day on, he is the muaddin of the Prophet ﷺ. Every Fajr, he would go to the Prophet ﷺ and ask him, As-salah ya Rasulullah, like he's asking permission, prayer ya Rasulullah, and the Prophet ﷺ would give permission, he'd give the adhan. Isha, same thing. So you'd see the Prophet ﷺ first thing in the morning and at the end of the day. He's like beloved to the Prophet ﷺ, he was very close to the Prophet ﷺ. And he's the first person to give the adhan in our entire history, our sacred history. Then the next episode, amongst many episodes we know, is Fath Makkah. Fath Makkah is the day the Prophet ﷺ enters Makkah after being oppressed, after being exiled from his people, and he comes in victorious, but very humble. And they call Fath Makkah, they call it Yawmul Bilal. The reason they call it is the Arabs, they attribute great days to people who did something spectacular that day. They call Yawm al-Badr, Yawm al-Hamza. The Battle of Badr, they call the day of Hamza, because of the bravery that he showed. They call the Battle of Uhud Yawm Talha, because Talha defended the Prophet in very dire circumstances. They call the Battle of Khandaq Yawm Salman, Salman al-Farisi, because he was the one who had the idea to dig the trench. So they attribute these great days. And subhanAllah, look at these companions. Salman radiallahu anhu, Salman al-Farisi, Suhaib al-Rumi, Bilal al-Habashi. From the beginning of Islam, you have people from Persia, you have people from the Byzantine Empire, you have people from Abyssinia. Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas radiallahu anhu, after the Prophet passed away, where did he go? He went to China and established the first masjid in China. But this shows us that this religion from day one has been a cosmopolitan religion. It's not an Arab religion, it's not a Middle Eastern religion, it is a global religion. The da'wah is global and it's for everyone and for all peoples. This is just a side note. But they call Fath Makkah Yawm al-Bilal. Why did they call it Yawm al-Bilal? Because when Prophet entered Makkah, he entered with Bilal radiallahu anhu. When they entered the Kaaba, he entered with Bilal radiallahu anhu. The Prophet destroyed all the idols. And the Quraysh expected this. They knew that they were defeated, and they knew these idols would be destroyed. But what did the Prophet do after that? He had Bilal go up to the Kaaba and say, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Give the adhan. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. There's no God but Allah. And the people of Quraysh, they were appalled, they were shocked. They were like, I'm so glad my father was not alive to see this day. And why is that? A lot of us, we think, oh, it's because he's a slave and he's a black slave and they're racist. There was a tremendous tribalism there. But the reality of this is that what they see, when the year of the elephant happened, the year that the Prophet was born, actually, in this month, what they saw was the mushrikeen having defeated these Christians. They believed there was a victory over monotheism. And now they see the grandson, potentially the grandson, if not from the people that were defeated on that day, on the Kaaba saying, Allahu Akbar, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. So this is the honor that Allah has given to Bilal radiallahu anhu, that he's the first person to give the adhan in Medina. He's the first person to give the adhan in Makkah in this day. They call it Yawm al-Bilal.